Low elo solo queue is filled with trials and tribulations, whether it's your inting top laner begging you for just one gank, even though they've been completely ungankable the whole game, or when you just solo kill the fed enemy top laner regardless, and then said inting top laner spam pings you to make an incredibly bad macro call because they want 3 caster minions instead of 1,000 gold on their jungler. I don't think it's far-fetched to say that this sequence of plays is the entire reason I could even win this game. Before I killed Darius, I was sitting on 1100 gold, and afterwards, 2900. So in exactly 60 seconds, I got an influx of 1800 gold, or 6 kills worth. Safe to say that's a pretty decent chunk of pocket change. My whole team was doing pretty badly the whole game besides Lux, so special shout out to her. And this is not me flaming my team, but just look at the scoreboard right before we ended here. I'm fairly sure I needed that gold or we wouldn't have won. I just wasn't working with that much here. So how can I confidently make these decisions that my team is actively upset at me for? GP just blindly started doing my Krugs and ran around the map after this, yet I was unfazed even as he lost his mind for my decision. After this fact, we still won. I know that this is something a lot of you struggle with because it shows up in comments all the time, so I felt it was finally time to address it. In today's guide, we'll be exploring how you should make macro decisions in low elo, even if your teammates are going to rage and sometimes AFK. And it's worth noting that this guide is made by the only platform that actually teaches solo queue how it should be played for those who want to climb, from the low elo perspective. The game literally needs to be played completely differently in gold, for example, than what you'll see on high elo streams or pro play if you want to climb quickly and effectively, playing with the worst, most annoying teammates imaginable who are seemingly allergic to the right play. So if you want guides that help you climb stupidly fast, packaged into incredible courses for every concept, then check out Skill Caps after this. There's no reason not to, as there's no risk. Alright, let's get right into the guide. Simply put, macro in low elo is just about letting your opponents make terrible decisions and then punishing them for it. You have to think about what weaknesses your opponent's moves leave open because they aren't going to be doing the same thing. Let's take this Lilia game that I played in gold plat elo the other day. I definitely do not just get better teammates because I'm smurfing. I deal with all of the same things that everyone else does, including the Yasuo's trying to go for 0-10 power spikes, and it leads to more than just some early games not going all according to plan. Yeah, if he just fought with Ignite there, I'm pretty sure we just turn. He just needs to realize that I'm going and not try to live. As long as he just turns, it's just free win, but not that important. The point that I'm making here is that I'm not exactly fed out of my mind magically. I usually only get ahead due to my opponents just making a ton of mistakes that I can punish, while simultaneously them not punishing me for any of mine. I fall behind a fair bit of my early games and still come back. So I definitely do make mistakes, they just don't result in the game-winning snowball for my enemies that I can get off of my opponents. There's a saying, give an inch, take a mile, and that's pretty much what I aim to do in my gameplay. In this game, I fall behind, but Talia and Mord opt for a terrible fight in which I just luck out and get a double kill. If this looked easy, it's because it was. My opponents just walked into me and I cleaned up the double, but the real reason it's so good is because now my opponents do not know the correct follow-up to any questions after this. One mistake shouldn't lose the game for my opponents here. I mean, just watch as my Camille dies in an incredibly stupid way, trying to crash her wave. It just goes to show that leads get thrown back and forth non-stop in low elo. The issue is when Talia shows up to topside trying to contest me, even though she's 2 levels down and has absolutely no hope of beating me in a fight. I take away her blue, gromp and get the kill, and just prance away a happy deer. I'm sure a good portion of you will know that I'm going to say that Talia should have opted to go bot side and look for a gank. If you haven't seen my course on the mirror rule, definitely give that a look as that will explain my reasoning there. I have all my bot side camps up, and my bot lane is hopelessly overextended with very shallow vision. This would have surely been something positive for her, and while it's no surprise that many don't know to look for a cross-map play, there's a specific reason why this play and why other high elo players will succeed in low elo more often than not. No one is just inherently luckier or can somehow magically break the rules of the game. We're all constrained by the same champions and limitations as everyone else, which is why I do truly believe that everyone can reach Diamond. The main distinction is that high elo players are just going to ask their opponents more questions. Well, I mentioned that a bit earlier, but what do I mean by that exactly? Let's dive in. When I go from that top lane gank into invading Talia's blue, I'm essentially checking her knowledge. She really only had a few options coming from base. Head towards top side to farm camps, or go bot side to farm or gank. I'm simplifying things here, but let's just say she had a 50-50 chance of doing either of those ideas. The nice thing is that if she just happens to make the wrong choice, aka coming topside, I get a huge punish off like is what happened in the game. And if she decides to go bot side, I can't exactly stop her from killing my bot lane, but at least I can trade back camps. Basically, I win 50% of the time and go even the other 50% when I invade. However, if I did an option like going back to my own camps to farm after that double kill top, Talia has the same choices to make, but different results will happen. If she goes topside, she'll be fine and we go even. However, if she goes bot while I'm just farming, I straight up lose. So now instead of winning 50% of scenarios, I instead lose 50% of the time just from one single change in my macro. What I'm getting at is that your opponent's options will rarely change. By making decisions that force your opponents to know the answer in order to not lose, like in this case, Talia needed to go bot side in order to come out even, you make them make mistakes. If we don't ask questions with our gameplay that requires a correct answer, it doesn't matter how bad our enemies are because we are never putting ourselves in a position to gain something if they do answer incorrectly. Let's look at a challenger earpiece I was doing with a student of mine just earlier today. Push hard, push hard, push hard. You never make it in time. Crashes and then you can like just sit here and kind of wait. You're gonna deny it 2.5 waves to this tower, by the way. More now that he's dead. So he just gets punished hard for moving and you get like 2 plates.
I could get a plate too.
You get two. Keep going.
Oh yeah, because I'm Jinx. Sorry, I haven't played her in a while.
You get so much here. Just by being here, we are already asking a question. Does the enemy know that they need to respond to this push? They're just griefing me. No. Stay. Why back?
Maybe one more because Gale Force.
No, look what they're doing. No one is coming to you. Like, there's no reason to back off. Just keep going. Like, push another wave, right? Lucian's death timer is just respawning, so he's not even gonna be here for this wave.
30 seconds.
Yeah, you back after this one, right? And now you actually have full Gale Force. Like, even if you didn't have Gale Force there, you still stay. Because you just need to create pressure, right? So that if your team does something stupid mid here, you're at least getting something for
have to cross map.
Yeah. This plat player was quick to want to back up, presumably because he assumed that the opponents would do the right thing and just come down to stop him. But this assumption is what stops many players from getting ahead in huge ways. You ask a question, and if the opponents fail to answer it correctly, just keep going. The important thing to note here is we do have to know what questions we're asking though, and that's the main takeaway from this guide. Know the question you're asking and the answer, and when your opponents don't pass the test, punish. By splitting their attention between multiple options, in this case getting tower damage mid or coming bot to prevent Jinx's push, many players will fail to decide correctly. The real answer is that one person should probably come to answer bot, and the rest should hit mid tower. But the chances of that conclusion happening in solo queue is next to nothing, on top of the coordination needed in that moment to decide who should even go bot in a game with no voice comms. Yeah, so are we getting those anytime soon? I know this is ADC gameplay and not jungle, but this is the exact scenario that happened in the game that I was playing Diana in and chose to just hit tower. Later on, the enemy Nami decides to leave lane to roam, and then by pushing, we're going to ask another question. Does she know she needs to return to lane in order to prevent her tower from going down? And does Lucian know if he can defend it? Hard push. Why do you think I'm saying hard push?
Because it's something about to go down.
Okay, well that and Nami's leaving, right? So like, yeah, if Nami's not here, you need to punish her not being here. So now you just poke this guy in the tower, get plates. He can't 1v2 you guys, right? So you just smack his ass. Yep. Hit tower. Okay, yeah. This guy's just dying for this, right? Easy. See? Yep. Wave management does it again. Look at that. Both players failed to answer the question, and it's easy to just profit off of these mistakes, but only because they're being put in a position to make them by us. Once again, you'll see the plat player I'm coaching try and retreat again, and I'm getting him to fight that instinct. You can see that in this instance, he was backing away from tower with 1100 gold, and by getting him to recognize that his opponents were not answering him, he made an additional 500. This is exactly the same as his earlier decision to go back away from tower. He has around 1000 gold here, and then he gets an additional 400 after I tell him to stay. Of course, your opponents are not going to make only mistakes, but all we can do is present them a bunch of chances to mess up, because as I was saying earlier, no one is perfect, even challenger players. And it's clear that plat players just won't know how to respond, at least some of the time, when you're pressuring them. We can see that against the Talia from earlier, I made mistakes that go unpunished. I walk over a ton of wards trying to help my Yasuo, who is still chasing his power spike, and I just show on the map for a ton of time. I lose the Rift Herald, and my mid laner still dies, so I'm not in the best spot. Talia now, of course, can just brute force and invade my topside jungle, or drop Rift mid, knowing full well where everyone on the map is. Instead, she just fails to ask me any questions at all or provide any pressure on the map, letting me just do the crab and leisurely stroll bottom with absolutely zero punish. Instead of trying to create her own pressure, she just shows bot trying to chase my figurative tail the entire game. And this ultimately leads to her just dying while trying to invade my red buff later. Much too late. Of course, macro play is like a puzzle, and there's no way to give a flowchart for what you should do in every game. But ultimately, if you follow these guidelines, you'll be making much better decisions than your opponents. Do things that require your opponents to answer them correctly. Chances are they won't, and aim to provide pressure like this at every opportunity. Even from losing situations, by just being a nuisance, you can get players to chase you around the map and make them play your game. And if someone is going to int an AFK for you making some call, they were going to find something else to mental boom over anyways. There's no point in focusing on what you can't control, only on what you can. If you just get a ton of gold, you're going to be able to carry a game, even without competent teammates to help. Additionally, do the thing you think is right, even if you're sure it'll tilt your team. We shouldn't really care about winning every single game, we just need to learn. If we play in this way, you'll be able to test results so that you know what to do to actually get the lead in the future. We care about learning what we can and can't get away with. The wins will come naturally without us setting that as our only goal. It may feel like it, but you don't get someone who is going to grief the game hard enough to the point where you absolutely cannot win any games. The likelihood is that you just aren't doing enough to carry them. Alright guys, a friendly reminder to get onto Skill Capped right now if you're serious about improving. And as always, thanks for watching.